the other important thing to think about with cortisol, especially when we're looking at the kidneys, is in Chinese medicine, the kidneys very much relate to the bones and to the skeleton in general. And a prolonged or increased cortisol response actually decreases your bone mass. It actually reduces your skeletal mass. So one of the most common conditions of aging is osteoporosis. And with osteoporosis, what happens is the normal curves of the body, we have a lordotic curve of the neck, a kyphotic curve of the thorax, another lordotic curve of the lumbar, and then a kyphotic curve of the sacrum. This is lost. And this again is this very picture of this bone. With old age, what happens is this lordotic curve of the neck turns into a sort of a kyphotic curve like this, and then just kind of continues like this. And so then you have people, their head sticks out like this. They have to actually bend their knees, and they have this kind of very simple curve there. That really does have a relationship with this gland atop the kidneys. If you are constantly stressed out, if you're constantly getting cortisol releases in response to stress, you're always on the go, you're always drinking coffee, you're always doing all these things, you're actually going to speed up this process from this to this. So this picture here with this bone, with these curves, this is actually the picture of the healthy kidney. This picture here of the longbow, so to speak, is the picture of the kidney after it's kind of shrunken down after a very long period of time. And cortisone, as you may know, is oftentimes given for chronic inflammatory disorders. But the problem with giving cortisone for chronic inflammatory disorders, besides the fact that it dampens the immune system as a whole, it decreases T-cell activity and interleukin-1 activity, those types of things, is it also reduces bone mass. It causes osteoporosis, and this is something that they didn't know early on. As we age, our kidneys actually slowly shrink. We start out with somewhere between 800,000 and a million nephrons in the kidneys. Each kidney has 800,000 to a million nephrons. These structures where we have, this glomerular tuft, and then the Bowman's capsule, and then this long nephron that can either excrete or resorb material. But that number dwindles. It can get down to about a third of that in a healthy person. So if you were to actually open up an old, if the ancients say let's say they killed a very old deer and they open it up, they go, whoa, this thing's past the age where it can bear or reproduce or mate. And in addition to that, all these other organs look basically normal. The lungs are normal size. The liver is more or less a normal size. A heart might even be bigger than it was in another animal because there might be some atherosclerosis or some other impedance to the heart. Everything else, but the kidneys are like these small little walnuts now, whereas before they were large. So they saw this sort of connection there. We also talked about how the kidneys have something to do with this resorption of the bone, this loss of ions, the release of cortisol, this setting of the kind of the degree or the state of arousal that has to do with the overall long-term health of the bones. The kidneys have to do with our overall constitution, our overall health, and that's why as we age, so often a kidney deficiency becomes one of the most prominent signs that we see. In our youth, normally the only sort of kidney deficiency that we would typically see would be like a kidney yin deficiency. But then as we age, we have more of like a kidney jing and a kidney yang type of deficiency. We actually get cold easier. We don't have the same kind of fire in our exactly. There are some diseases that certainly affect the kidneys. Diabetes would be a very important one. Uncontrolled diabetes can result in renal failure. Another type of disease that is deadly because of its effect on the kidneys would be an autoimmune disease, for instance, systemic lupus erythematosus. Typically, death occurs in the SLE patient and the lupus patient because the immunoglobulins proliferate in the bloodstream to the point where this glomerular apparatus here and this basement membrane are damaged by the proliferation of these immunoglobulins. they actually start to kind of, in a way, kind of clog up or affect the way that these apparati can function. And then over time, the number of glomerular capsules and nephrons decreases. The load on the remaining nephrons, glomerular capsules increases, but you still have all these immunoglobulins, and typically the SLE patient dies of kidney failure. That's the main cause of death. From the Chinese medicine perspective, there are sort of two main poles in the body. You have the heart fire. Up here, you have this heart fire with the heart, which is kind of represented like this. And then down here, you have the kidney water. And they sort of act in that relationship with one another. Here, with this glomerular capsule, you have this very the kind of the reach of the heart fire kind of coming down to the kidneys and then excreting this fluid. And then the kidneys deciding how much of it is going to remain in the blood system and then affect the heart. But when you talk about people dying of heart disease, in a lot of ways, you're also talking about them dying of kidney disease. Because what causes heart disease? What causes heart disease, there are a number of things, but one is simply high blood pressure. And that high blood pressure, in many ways, is at least what's instrumental in increasing that blood pressure is the way that the kidneys are performing, the way that they're acting. So you can give medications to cause the kidneys to excrete more fluid and lose more water and decrease the load on the heart. But the side effects of those medications is pretty significant. And one of the side effects that it has is, for instance, in the diuretics that don't spare certain ions, for instance, in the diuretics that don't spare potassium, such as kind of earlier diuretics there, is you get a decrease in the heart's ability to contract properly because it doesn't have the electrolyte balance that it needs in order to operate properly. So eventually we kind of end up in sort of a downward spiral here. It's difficult to self-medicate.